Seeing as the last comment was talking about the French election, let's talk about the French election. So Emmanuel Macron got 23.9% of the vote, ahead of Marine Le Pen, who had 21.4%. So they are the only two who are going to proceed to the second round of voting in the French election, which will be in 2 weeks. Macron is only 39 years old. He's a former investment banker. Has never been in an elected office. He is the one that got the phone call from President Obama, encouraging him. He's considered as a centrist, but he is outside of the mainstream parties. This is the first time in French history that none of the mainstream parties actually made it to the second round for the voting of the president. Le Pen, we've talked about Marine Le Pen on this show quite a bit. She's the head of the Front National, as a far-right nationalistic party. It was founded by her father. She is, in a way, she denied France's involvement in rounding up Jewish citizens during Nazi Germany. Her father has actually far more problems in terms of Holocaust denial. They have a very hard right, xenophobic worldview. This race in many ways is being compared to the 2016 election, which gives a lot of people pause and makes them fear that if this plays out the same way in France as it did in the United States, that Marine Le Pen is going to be the next president of France. She has, I'm going to try my best to avoid calling her Nazi, right? Because she's not a Nazi, but at some point the distinction probably doesn't matter. But her worldview, if you listen to her interviews with regards to plurality in terms of multiculturalism, in terms of religious freedom in France, if you listen to her speak, you can see the venom with which she conveys disdain for groups, ethnic groups, religious minority groups, anything that does not conform to her perception of French society. The other thing that stands out about her is the similarity in the demographics that align with Donald Trump, right? There is a right-leaning movement going on in a populist movement. It's fair to call it a populist movement. Not all populism is equal, first of all, but it's very comparable to what's going on with Brexit, very comparable to what's going on with Donald Trump. Matter of fact, Nigel Farage supports her. Donald Trump has come out in support of her, and that should let you know who Marine Le Pen is. Mélenchon, who is endorsed by the French Communist Party, considered to be the Bernie Sanders-esque, a little further left than Bernie Sanders, to be honest with you. He did not get what he needed. He ended up with 19.6% of the vote. He has refused to endorse Macron against Marine Le Pen, telling voters it's essential to vote their conscience. And he's saying that later on he's going to figure out who he's going to support, and he's going to consult his voters, his supporters, before making that decision. All right, that's enough of the facts. Let's talk about this. I get no. I have to start. I got to start higher. Here's the deal. This is being heralded as another example, case study of what happens when you put neoliberalism up against fascism, proto-fascism, neo-fascism, whatever iteration of fascism you want to call it. Let's just put a blanket statement there. And it's being heralded as a case study, an example of why we need to run leftists who are populists, who are actually going to address some of the underlying systemic economic problems that create this disparity, that creates this fear, this animosity, these tensions, right? And in many ways, what I just said is a slight erasure of the very xenophobic nature and the racist overtones, direct racism that comes from this right-leaning populism. However, you can't ignore the contrast, the compare. You can't ignore it because the parallels are very distinct. You can see the parallels in the presence of economic. Listen, I've said this on my show before, and this should not be a revolutionary or a controversial statement because it's simply true. Yes, you're going to have racism even without economic disparity, but economic disparity absolutely exacerbates that sense of that it's a word I'm looking for and I can't really get it right now, but it exacerbates the problem. This does not justify the racist, xenophobic, ethno-nationalist campaigns that Nigel Farage led the way with Brexit, Donald Trump rode the wave in the United States, and that Marine Le Pen hopes to carry her into the presidency of France. It does not justify it in any form or fashion. It does not absolve anyone who supports them of responsibility or culpability in supporting these far right-leaning, xenophobic, ethno-nationalist populists. Now, that being said, if we know this, actually, I'm not ready to go there yet. Y'all bear with me. I'm piecing this together as we go. I'm not ready to go to my conclusion yet. Let me set up one other point here. I think it is a false choice to say that it's the difference between neoliberalism and fascism, because what Donald Trump has demonstrated here in the United States is that even if he is a fascist leaning, proto-fascist, or even if he's just a dick, he's still a neoliberal. He's still an economic neoliberal. He's still establishment. He's still doing all the things that the people who thought they were voting for someone who was a non-interventionist, he's still an interventionist. He's still about empire abroad. He's still about the bankers. I mean, look who he stacked onto his campaign, into his cabinet. Donald Trump is 100% neoliberal on cocaine, on steroids. And I think this is something that people miss, is like, we're trying to draw a distinction, say, oh, you can either choose between neoliberalism and fascism, but fascism in this case, in this example, particularly with Donald Trump, is neoliberal. And so they're going to follow they're going to do the same policies of gutting the economic system, gutting the entire concept of a public good. They're going to gut it because they want to privatize everything for the financial benefit of plutocrats, of the oligarchs in the respective countries. Now, with Marine Le Pen, I'll grant that she has more desire to make even their iteration of neoliberalism more nationalized. Right. However, I don't think she's going to be able to do it, even if she's pandering it, based on what Nigel Farage did the very next morning after Brexit, when he denied that any money was even going to go to the health ministry there. The very next morning, based on what Donald Trump did in terms of being 100% every bit of what you hated about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton combined squared. Based on all of that, I really have no reason to believe that Marine Le Pen is going to be any different. Even if she is, it's not a difference that's better. So the point is that we're drawing a distinction to say that we have to choose now between neoliberalism and fascism, when the fascists are carrying the same type of neoliberalism economic policies forward. Now, that being said, my conclusion, I'm not cool with Mélenchon not. I think it's irresponsible. I think it's irresponsible for him not to endorse this establishment neoliberal shield. Just like Adolph Reed said, it's important that you vote for the neoliberal warmongering liar. With regard to Hillary Clinton, best article I read, hilarious title. It's important. You cannot tell me, maybe if we get Marine Le Pen, that we'll get some kind of, no. Everything that we've seen so far, if she continues in the same path as Donald Trump, is that she's going to give you everything that you hated about the establishment, plus the added benefit of ethno-nationalism, xenophobia, and racism. So now the choice here is not neoliberalism versus fascism. The choice is neoliberalism or neoliberalism with racism and xenophobia. Because you're going to get the same economic policies, at least in the case of the United States. You're 100% getting the same economic policies. You're actually getting them even worse. So I think Mélenchon not endorsing this neoliberal, centrist, banker shield, call them, what it is, I think it's irresponsible, because you're going to get the same damn economic policies with right-leaning immigration policies, and especially when we talk about this next story about the violence that's coming from far right extremists. You're getting people who foment that type of sentiment to the top of our society. Even if you try to think of this logically, a logical examination of this, if you are trying to stave off the worst of economic neoliberalism, Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, Marine Le Pen, if Marine Le Pen, now I'm not even going to say if, I have no reason to believe that she's going to be any different. They are neoliberalism squared with the added bonus of some racist, xenophobic ethno-nationalism. So Mélenchon, whatever, needs to get off his ass. And I'm quite okay with everyone disagreeing with me on this. But I mean, enough's enough. We don't need an entire right. I mean, I don't know what difference it's going to make on the international scene. But the last thing we need is one more nation to move to the far ethno-nationalist right-leaning side of their spectrum with the added bonus of neoliberalism, economic policies cubed. I just went from square to cube. Take it.